so near.
What's up guys, Garrett here with Deranged Off-Road, and I've got Taylor with Triple S Polaris up here in Cedar City. The really cool part is he's exactly who helped us out when we picked up our Pro XP. When was that? Back in, I was trying to think before we came
last
up, like
August.
Last year, right?
Yeah, it was last year in August.
Yeah. Went by quick, dude.
Or July.
Yeah, it was like July or June or something.
June, July, somewhere.
But we got that. As you guys know, we have that on the channel fully built out. So if you haven't checked out those videos, do that. But today, it's all about the Pro R launch edition. So the ultimate launch edition. So real quick, first impressions when I saw it. The color thing, it's one of the colors I have not liked seeing it on video. It does look better in person, I'll have to say. But I would go like, you know, all white or black or something. I guess I'm a simple guy. Dave, what did you think about your first impressions of?
First impressions, it's stout. There's a lot of things different on this than there is on the Pro XP, which make it a big step above, I think.
We definitely learned a lot more walking around before this video about what's on this car. And that's what Taylor's going to help us talk about as we walk around it. There's a few different things on here that are quite a bit different than the Pro XP itself. So, Taylor, what was your first impressions when you saw it pull up, or you had a chance to actually go drive it? So
I did, yeah. I got to be a part of the demo rides out in California and ride these. My first impression, man, they are huge. We used to call the Turbo S the Beast, but this is the next level. Like, I mean, it sitting here on the showroom makes all the rest of these units look like little toys now. So,
yeah.
I mean, it looks great. Like you said, this may not be everybody's favorite color, but I mean, it's growing on me now that it's here. So,
hey, you love it or hate it, either way.
Yep.
It's what people like. So.
Yep. But yeah, this thing's awesome. We're excited to have it here. It took long enough to get the first one here, but we have a bunch more rolling in now, so we're pumped.
Yeah, it was really impressive when I saw it for the first time today in person. There's a lot of cool things on it. So just tell us a little bit about, we can start in the front area. One thing that I noticed as I walked up to it, of course, because it's got the 2.0 power plant, is the massive radiator. So I noticed compared to our Pro XP, the radiator is just huge on this thing.
Yeah, so they say that they increased the size of this radiator by about 40%. We know the Pro XPs, they get pretty hot inside. So we know that with this new power plant, we're going to need to be able to keep it a lot cooler. So it's a massive radiator. Up front here, you can tell. But then also there's quite a few other things up front that have changed to be able to get the airflow to the clutches, to the engine, everything up here. Probably one of the first things you guys notice on here is that it has a different air scoop up top here. The air scoop is actually the intake for the clutch housing themselves. So that will actually be going through the machine itself to be able to cool off those belts for you. So.
And one thing that we were learning as we were walking around with this setup is, well, two things real quick. People ask, well, why are the vents only on the side and not the front? And that was because basically you would just be pulling in so much dust and dirt straight off that they came in on the side. And for two, a lot of people are worried about heat in the cab, and having the tunnel go through here and some of that air moving, supposedly it's supposed to help quite a bit with getting rid of some of that heat, which I can see how it would. Have I tested that or tried it? No, but I can definitely see the extra airflow going through would definitely, you know, it'd make a big difference on the heat for sure.
Yep.
How about a little bit on the suspension and stuff? So where are we at on the front travel?
So on the front usable travel, we have 27 inches of travel on the
That's
Pro
crazy.
R.
Crazy.
Turbo R will have 25 inches, I believe. So when you sit a Pro R like this next to a Turbo R, they look very identical. The suspension's the exact same. You have a few geometry changes on them. But on the front, like I said, the 27 inches of usable travel, you can see that there's a lot of things that we've changed with the front end here. You know, the upgraded arms, completely different style of how we're doing the suspension, along with the axles going into the unitized hubs now. So big changes for Polaris. We're pumped about them. I mean, this front end is ready to rock and roll. It's huge.
You guys check out, I mean, we'll grab some B-roll of all this, but the axles themselves are massive. But also with the new hubs that he's talking about, what we've learned is in the hub itself on a typical UTV, most of them, the axle will carry or bear a lot of the weight of the tire and everything, you know, as it's going up and down over whoops, all that kind of stuff. But the way that the new Polaris is set up, it actually bears more of the weight on the knuckle and all that kind of stuff and kind of skips the axle, which means only one awesome thing from that. Hopefully you're going to break less axles and less wear on them. So the added weight of the car, all that kind of stuff, and the added power, that's definitely a great setup to go with. And from what I understand, he said the knuckle itself, you're looking at just over, you know, a couple $100 or whatever to replace.
Yeah, that unitized hub, it's the same hub on all four corners.
Yeah, and what did he say? It was kind of like an old school Chevy type setup or something. He was
Kind of like an old school
GM
truck.
setup.
I don't remember
setup,
which.
yeah.
But
So
this technology that's been around for quite a while.
yeah, so no more pressing in studs, right? All that kind of stuff.
You
It's just
buy
all
you
there.
buy a hub and it comes with the
Comes with the studs.
studs are already in it. It's ready to go. Keep one on hand all the time and
Yeah.
got you
Yeah,
covered
I think-
on all four
I
corners.
think they're about $250 for that hub,
Yeah,
so you can
that's-
carry one with you.
Pretty dang good price.
Yeah.
For as you guys know, everything that you buy in Polaris, it's expensive. So.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's walk around a little bit in the cab area and talk a little bit about that before we make our way to the rear. Just looking in for us with the Pro XP, very similar in size. Seats are very similar, probably all the same. But there is some major changes in a couple of things with the system. So let's just go over the suspension and kind of how that works, and then also how the steering box and all that stuff is a little bit different than what you get on a Pro XP or, you know, a Turbo S.
Yeah, correct. The changes on the suspension now. So now that Polaris has gone with the dynamics that they're calling their dual valve dynamics, not only are you having your 2.5s up front and your 3.0s in the back, but now, like previous dynamics models, you were able to control the compression with your suspension controls inside the cab. So now you're able to actually control both the compression and the rebound. What that's going to do is that's going to give you the most adjustability in all types of different terrain. So now, instead of there being 3 different selectors, there's actually 4 selectors on that. So that's the first part and the basics of the dynamics. So you have the comfort setup that's going to give you the most plush ride, but then also it's going to give you the easiest steering capabilities. Your next step up from there is going to be track. So track mode is actually going to lower the center of gravity at the lowest setting so that you're able to keep the vehicle level in all type of terrain. What that's going to do is that's going to make it so that when you're taking corners, things like that, that's going to keep your unit level and going to keep you from having some of that rollover feel. Your next step up from there is your rock mode. So that's something that's new. That's new for Polaris. That rock mode is actually going to change your suspension, but it's also going to start integrating some of your 4-wheel drive changes that we'll go over too. And then you have your new Baja mode. So Baja mode will be, you know, set up like your firm mode would have been in a Turbo S or in a Pro XP. But what Polaris has done now is they've actually integrated the steering to adjust to each one of those settings. So they call it their integrated EPS system is going to be along with the dynamics. That's going to make it so whenever you're switching through those, you're going to have your steering changed to whatever setting you're going to be at to make it so that you either have the most plush ride with the easiest steering capabilities or, you know, stiffer steering during some of those Baja moments. So, but big changes on the steering to have that integrated with the dynamics.
Yeah, I think it's really cool because, like, they talked in rock mode too. It sounds like there's might be a little bit of difference in power delivery from the motor as well in rock mode.
Yeah.
And then the steering gets like really like touchy and stuff because, you know, you're going to want instant steering when you're going over rocks.
When you're locked in, you need as much steering power as you can get if
Exactly.
your diff's locked in.
And then the big thing is too is integrating all that. They also made the steering box basically fully rebuildable. So if you have an issue where you break it and all that kind of stuff, and instead of replacing it for a couple grand or whatever, they were talking about, it was more of like you get to rebuild it and kind of fix it, which is really cool. But having it integrated into the suspension, so it's all like adjusting on the fly,
Yeah.
that would have been kind of cool to have on the Pro XP.
Yeah.
Yeah. That just gives you a good reason to One of these coming for you, right?
He texted us like as soon as they came out, and he's like, "When you guys picking one up?" I was like, "Freak, man, we just got done with the Pro finally."
That Pro looks good. I can't blame you. But yeah, it is going to be really nice to have a lot of these components like the steering fully serviceable. So just making it easier on you guys and us too. So.
All right, cool.
Yeah, it seems like steering racks are one of the biggest, weakest links on most side-by-sides out there.
Yeah, we've. It sounded like it took them a couple years to figure out the exact. The front diff and steering that they wanted to do on this, but they've got it dialed now. We haven't had any issues. So.
Yeah, the other thing too that we mentioned inside with the Ultimate is they already come with the dual battery setup, right?
Yep.
So. Basically, when it comes to accessories, there really isn't any question on what you can add on this thing.
And it's got an alternator. Putting out how much? 1,500 watts or something like that?
1,700 watt.
Oh, even better.
alternator.
1,700.
So you're pushing a lot of power, dual batteries, and that comes in the Ultimate package. So
I think we could probably get 6 or 7 light bars on this thing.
let's do it.
A lot of people talk about dual batteries. A lot of our stuff we have not ran dual batteries and have been able to run what we needed to. We don't do crazy stereo systems or anything on our stuff, so that draws more power. But generally speaking, a lot of people want different setups of dual and have to put them in. So, when we're talking price point of these, yes, they are quite a bit more expensive, but we're starting to realize there's a lot of things in this car already that you don't have to worry about doing down the road. So dual battery with the full alternator is awesome. It's an awesome setup right off the bat. The other thing inside too that they did on the 2-seaters was back here where you move your panels to get to the belt and all that kind of stuff. They put all deadener in there, so sound deadener and all that kind of stuff to help out just with the noise and everything. From what I understand, being the 2.0, you get a little bit different sound. Motor's probably either a little bit louder or whatever, so that has all been integrated and put in to help keep that sound and heat down. So.
Yeah, the 4-seater, the engine's a little bit further away from you, so it doesn't end up being as much of a worry. With the 2-seater, they've done quite a few things on this to keep the heat away from you, keep it as quiet as they can. So.
All right, so if we come back here, we'll start off with travel. So what kind of travel we have back here?
So on the 3.0 podium shocks back here, you're going to have 29 inches of usable travel on this unit.
So think about it, guys. Front's 27 and 29. You're really barely, like most machines, you have a big difference. This is crazy to think that the front and rear are basically almost the same.
They've really dialed in the geometry of these. Like, it is super impressive. One thing that's really nice too on these is not only can you see, if you look at your Pro XP trailing arm versus this trailing arm, they've seriously beefed up the suspension on this. Like, it's crazy. But they've also given you a couple different things on here to make it so that you have the most adjustability possible. So Polaris, a lot of people have probably asked and seen what this bar is right here. That's called the toe link. So the toe link, its function is like your previous units, Polaris and other ones, in the up and down stroke of the suspension. You've been able to see, if you look from behind, that they go up and down kind of like a bat wing. What this does is this actually keeps those level, so that behind it you'll be able to see going through whoops, that tire's going to stay level and go straight up and down. That link though, if you actually walk over to this side here, you'll actually have this adjustability to adjust the toe and camber on this.
So this would be right down in here?
Yep, that's it. That's the bolt there. So it's as simple, there's 2 bolts there, one there. One's going to adjust your way in, the other one out, so that you can adjust, where your tire's sitting on the toe and camber setup. So,
which is really cool. So to have an easy way to align the whole car with tape measure, whatever, you can come back here and align all this stuff in a matter of minutes when it starts getting off, which is really cool, which you don't get that feature on other
Not too many. You usually have to go to aftermarket stuff to get that adjustability.
Yeah. They've got the high clearance radius rods back here. Everything, like I said, is pretty beefed up. Since we're back here though, we haven't gone over the power plant and everything yet. But in this spot here, that's something that people have been really impressed with. Is changing the oil on this is going to be super simple and easy.
Yeah, you can't be coming in here, grabbing the oil filters, twisting it off, draining that. The Pro XP in the back is a little bit of a pain to get up in there
for sure
and undo it. So this is definitely a whole lot easier. One thing that we're down here that we didn't mention, they also did have integrated built-in tie downs in the front and rear, and that's what they look like. There's the bar right there to connect on. And then one thing too is, compared to the Pro XP, the bed itself is actually a little bit smaller. I can tell now that I'm looking at it compared to ours, you know, but they also did put a little bit of heat shield and deadener in it here, so when you're running your coolers and stuff, it doesn't heat everything up so quick. But it still has the same setup bed where you pull out the 4 screws or bolts or whatever, and it pops right out, which is really cool.
Yeah, that's nice.
So
on the backside on here, one thing they did for both the heat, but then also the sound side of it, is you'll notice on the 2-seaters are a little bit different, but these air scoops for your intake are actually a little bit bigger on the 2-seater. That's to make it so you're going to have less sound of that intake coming inside the cab, like some other units that have the air intake in that same position.
yeah, it's kind of cool. They got like these covers on them compared to just open on each side. Probably to help out with all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's gonna be sucking in a lot of air for that engine, so you're gonna need it, that's for sure.
I mean, seeing this motor, the 2.0 in person, it's a big boy when you're looking
It
at it.
is.
You get in here and you can tell it's a big sucker. So
Yeah, I think dry weight you're like 2150 on this unit, so it's a beast, but they definitely pack a punch with the amount of power it's pushing out. So.
And the reason they're able to get, compared to the Pro R turbo, is the reason they're able to get a little bit more travel on the 2.0, he was mentioning, was because the way that the frame is notched out with the 2.0 motor, so it changes it up a little bit, and they're able to get a little bit more travel, which is, was it 1 or 2 inches more?
Yeah, 1 inch more on that.
1 inch more on the Pro R. With the 2.0, so kind of interesting, just those little details, little different things that they're able to do. Pretty dang cool.
Yeah, if you set this side by side with the Pro R, or a Pro R and a Turbo R, the only things that are actually the same is anything inside the cab, you know, shoulder height or, you know, below. Everything else, I mean, cage, back end, front end, everything is completely different chassis. But nice with this one is that with this frame, I mean, you have a 2-piece entire frame, one piece lower, 1 piece upper, and they arrive at dealerships just like this. So
they're already fully assembled.
Fully assembled, yep. Makes it pretty convenient on our part, but also makes it so that, I mean, these are race ready. So.
All right, so one more thing that we didn't mention as we walked right by is the rear diff is completely separated from everything, which is pretty cool. I mean, to me, that looks pretty simple to get out if you needed to get it out for some reason, but I'm sure they did that for a couple reasons, but also mainly to beef it up, make it a whole lot stronger.
Yeah, just like the front end, I mean, it's going to make it so that everything's really easy serviceable. With the new 4-wheel drive system that they have in this, I mean, you're going to have your basic 2-wheel drive, your standard all-wheel drive system that Polaris has had before, but now they are. You're going to be able to put it into full 1v1.
Lock that full differential there. Yeah.
So that's something that's new. I mean, we haven't had that on anything else for Polaris, so we're excited about that. I mean, anybody in the rocks is going to love that.
Well, yeah, and they come with a gear reduction. So as you guys know, we put out a video about the gear reduction we did on our Pro XP. These ones already come with one, the factory one, of course.
Geared way lower
So
than
it's geared way lower,
anything else.
Which is a good thing. And we talked to one of the main reps too, and they put several thousand miles on their demo rigs, and they weren't going through belts either. They got some of the biggest clutches, some of the biggest belts that he was mentioning, and they didn't go through belts. So I guess, didn't he say he had 8,000 miles on the one belt on quite a few machines, right?
Yeah, and
So it's
in
pretty
their demo
impressive.
rides, they put 8,000 miles on them, had all original. They didn't have a single unit go through belts. But then the clutching on that, so what they've done is they've actually made the clutches are like 30% bigger than on your unit. So it's
That's crazy. Big boys.
It's massive. it is huge.
And then that air induct that we talked about, induction, you know, that probably helps save that belt too and keep it cooler. It's got that direct flow, so definitely really cool.
Yeah, you have the best of both worlds with that. I mean, you have the gear reduction, but then I think the 2-seater will top out at 94, so.
Plenty fast.
Plenty fast, yeah.
It's plenty fast.
Okay, so another thing that we missed in the front cab was a rocker switch that actually changes the mode of the throttle versus the suspension. So it's actually completely different, correct?
It is.
So tell us a little bit about that.
So what that is that selector is going to give you full adjustability on whatever ride situation you're in. So people that are riding in a sporty situation, you're going to be able to switch to sport or rock or into race. What that's going to do is that's going to adjust your throttle response of the motor to be able to fit that certain situation. So completely separate from dynamics. It's all on your throttle response for what you're doing in each situation. So rock will give you a really wide throttle response, but the race mode will give you a really rapid, quick throttle response. So that's kind of what that will do, just so you can have that adjustability on, whatever you're riding on. So.
All right, guys, so that is it for the new Pro R. We want to thank Triple S, Polaris, and Cedar, and we just want to thank Shad as well. He reached out to us and told us to come up here, so we appreciate that. I don't know where he's at, but it's nice to see some inventory in your guys' stuff compared to when I came up.
We're glad to
get the Pro, so it's kind of cool that you guys have a bunch more stuff out. But if you haven't checked out Triple S, make sure you come up here in Cedar City and check them out.
Utah.
And, yeah, Cedar City, Utah, I should mention. Not far from St. George, only about 45 minutes north. So, and then anything else you want to add?
No, thank you guys. We appreciate you coming, that we can give you a little tutorial run through on these Pro Rs. We're excited for them.
Yeah. After seeing it for the first time in person, I'm a little bit more excited about the R now, seeing it up close. Kind of wish I was picking it up. So.
Hey, this one doesn't have your name on it?
No.
I think this one's probably sold, and probably who knows how many of the next ones are already sold.
Definitely has.
Be a hot item.
We can get you in line there.